President Cyril Ramaphosa, you are about to deal with a pertinent issue here. Troubling news across the Limpopo. The guy who went to Harare to inaugurate has already begun to unleash untold violence against the people that oppose him. Even after deliberately and unashamedly stealing the elections and having you, Ramaphosa, the leader of Africa, come to grace the occasion. Well, I know you did it because you are a good neighbor and you want to promote peace. But look at how Idim Nangagwa repays you for being in Harare. Before you even go to the airport to go back to Pretoria, he was already beating up opposition leaders and arresting lawyers who are defending the change champions. What Idim Nangagwa is saying to Ramaphosa and all the global community is this thing: go screw yourselves. Who are you? I'm king in my castle. None of you can do anything to me. The sheer arrogance and the use of Cyril Ramaphosa's political capital to use it to endorse something that the ANC would never do in South Africa. President Ramaphosa said, South Africans protest all the time, but the ANC has never unleashed terror against its own citizens, and I believe it will never do so. And I believe that the ANC is not interested in associating itself with any leadership that goes down that route. Isolate Idim Nangagwa, President Ramaphosa. He is not worth it. ZANU-PF is not worth partnering with. You are not dealing with a fellow liberation war party that needs to stick together for the ideologies they serve, not at all. Not with ZANU-PF. At least the version of ZANU-PF that is in power right now. You are dealing with cowards who utterly fail to comprehend what it is to be a national leader. You, Ramaphosa, say, are a leader in your country. Your country is stable. It is a beacon of hope and a light, a sanctuary, a shelter to Africans, especially Black Africans and Zimbabweans in particular, who see South Africa as the only hope that they have in the backdrop of a government that deliberately hates them and deports them from their own country. Do you think of deporting Zimbabweans from South Africa to Zimbabwe? Well. The Zimbabwean government is willingly deporting its own citizens to South Africa systematically. The porous borders are not porous because Zimbabweans just love to come to South Africa. No. It's because of the pain and the hunger that is caused by the despot whom you went to Harare to grace his inauguration, say. That despot is going to bring trouble to South Africa. For the troubles up north are going to add pressure to South Africa. But I do not want to go that route of trying to say the ANC's hand will be forced. No. Even if South Africans do not raise an alarm, It is necessary for ANC to become a big brother to Zimbabwe. And I promise that in the new Zimbabwe, the ANC and South Africa in particular will be a partner to our government. We will focus on the development of Zimbabwe together with South Africa with a common goal of alleviating poverty and income inequality from Cape Town to Mutare, from Victoria Falls to Durban. There is an opportunity, President Ramaphosa, to bring our nations together, peaceful, in a just manner. Handle President Mnangagwa with care, for he is a violent man who has already unleashed violence and is willing to go that violent path. Him and his cohorts, they know no boundaries when it comes to perpetrating violence and pursuing their political opponents. To them, they view Zimbabwe as a piece of land that they have inherited from Gabriel Robert Mugabe, and therefore they give a little piece and piece to their own children and those whom they deem worthy, which is their own families and tribesmen. And all of us Zimbabweans, we are third-class citizens who are smelly to them, who are like rats or rags and deserve nothing but condemnation to hell and condemnation to places where there is dishonor and disglory. You are not like that, Mr. Ramaphosa, President Ramaphosa. And the ANC could be anything but not that, which is an PF is. Therefore, I will never put the ANC in the same place where ZANU-PF is. ANC is a vanguard party of liberators that have liberated South Africa through Nelson Mandela and you, President Ramaphosa, Thabo Mbeki, Jacob Zuma, Walter Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, and others. Langa libalele. Since the ANC has ruled South Africa, your country has been the beacon of hope for all black people across Africa. And I know now the calling that you're called to be part of is one thing, is a heavy duty that only leaders can carry. The duty of having to be one of the architects that will bring freedom to Zimbabweans. Together with Zambia, which has already demonstrated a willingness to go all the way in pursuit of the freedom of Zimbabwe, I do believe that Botswana as well is of the same mind. Already, the three countries make a ring against the despotic government in Harare. Since they passed a so-called patriotic bill, which actually is a shameless attempt at avoiding persecution or avoiding accountability by their peers through the complaining of ordinary Zimbabweans of the plight of the defenseless, unarmed Zimbabweans, both in Zimbabwe and in the diaspora, including the millions of Zimbabweans in South Africa who are causing a strain in the South African service delivery system, which is leading to a breakdown of the social fabric in South Africa. The ANC has got an opportunity to relive its ethos of being a liberator through careful diplomacy, not forceful, as I said, hanging the gentleman in Harare with care, for he is a very violent man whose violent appetite knows no boundaries. Decisively drawing a line to what the ANC will accept and what the ANC and the South African government will not accept. Articulating the consequences thereof of not adhering to those requests that will lead or that should lead to the emancipation of all Zimbabweans. At a critical time like this, President Ramaphosa, the global community will find it worthwhile to listen to your strong voice, to your powerful voice, to align with you, President Ramaphosa, in delivering a change to Zimbabwe. As a Zimbabwean national living under your good care in Cape Town, I appreciate and I'd like to thank you in the ANC for allowing Zimbabweans to stay in your country, including the millions of undocumented Zimbabweans whom the ANC government has been very compassionate towards. It shows to me the humanity and the humane face of the ANC and the South African government when it comes to the plight of the black man in Africa. More specifically, my Zimbabwean brothers and sisters. We Zimbabweans who are in South Africa, President Ramaphosa, do intend to go back home and build our own country and be the masters of our own destiny. We appreciate the stay in South Africa, but it is not a permanent solution to the problems of Zimbabwe or even to the problems of South Africa. A strong Zimbabwe is going to be critical for a strong South Africa and a strong ANC. For a strong Zimbabwe will alleviate not only the problems of Zimbabweans flooding into South Africa, but it will open up the space for South African business to participate in a growing Zimbabwean economy. I promise that in the new government that we are setting up, South African business will be first in line if things were done, are going to lead to a new Zimbabwe, which I believe you, Mr. President, are going to lead together with Zambia and fellow African countries, including Mozambique, that has been quietly watching the situation, whom I believe also does not want to associate itself with lawlessness in an upheaval and despotic movements. Mozambique is a stable country, and I do believe that the Mozambican government will be in line with what Pretoria will be leading. Today's inauguration proved that SADC no longer has appetite for Harare. And the African Union's silence is extremely deafening. It is a huge messaging that says enough is enough. Zimbabwe cannot suffer this internal colonization for 5 more years. Idi Mnangagwa is a despot, Mr. President Cyril Ramaphosa. Let me not mince words here. There is nothing diplomatic about accepting a Hitler running a nation again. Let me speak to the nation of Israel. Or let me remind you, Mr. President Ramaphosa, about the nation of Israel. After being persecuted by Adolf Hitler and knowing the evils of Hitler, were helped by the British to re-establish themselves in their country of Israel. That same spirit of Hitler we are seeing arise in Idi Mnangagwa, and say it's not an understatement. The man we're dealing with has done a genocide before. You know that. You saw that. I do think you were associated with the MK veterans back then in the 1980s. You know, Mr. Ramaphosa, what I'm talking about. That Adolf Hitler of the 1980s that committed genocide in Matabeleland was led to live, was led to continue. And today, he is in power. What makes you think that at the blink of an eye, he can do it again? Mr. Ramaphosa, President Ramaphosa, Bill Clinton has said that, or has expressed his regret of letting Milosevic slaughter people under his watch. It is one of the foreign policy mishaps that President Clinton has to deal with. You, Mr. Ramaphosa, you do not want to go through what President Clinton is going through or has gone through with not stopping Milosevic when it was in his power to do so. I present this to you, President Ramaphosa, that it is in your power to prevent another Milosevic or another Hitler right next door under your watch. Madam Belase. This is a heavy burden that I'm placing on your shoulders and on the ANC. I accept that. It calls for deep reflection of what is at stake. It calls for humility and understanding the pain and misery of the fatherless, of the powerless, who for so long, Mr. Ramaphosa and the ANC, you have been protecting under your umbrella. But it is time to fix home. Zimbabweans yearn to go home. I hope this message finds you well. I hope this message will resonate with forces within the ANC and government structures that see the need and the danger of another Milosevic up north, and that how that could trigger a terrible chain of events down south. Policy makers in Pretoria need therefore to work carefully as we deal with this delicate matter. For I don't think we're dealing with a proper human here. What we're dealing with is tragedy, and it needs global partnership. I'm not going to spell it out to you what needs to be done or how it needs to be done. I am not a foreign policy expert, and I'm not an advisor of presidents. I am just a Zimbabwean living in Cape Town and yearning to go back home to lead his people out of poverty by the grace and the willingness of the Spirit of God. Good night, sir.